Last announcement of the night. I'm back.
You know what it's like? You're 100 hours into a TV show, your boss is getting suspicious because of all the sick days that you're taking. You're so obsessed that you become estranged from your own family, and then BAM! A character dies and it hits you like the proverbial truck. You know, there's nothing quite like an unexpected character death on a TV show, and here are 10 of the best of them. Needless to say, yeah, spoilers, they are a-coming. There are many factors that made poor Howard Hamlin's death a shock. He made it through nearly 6 seasons of Breaking Bad spin-off Better Call Saul, and while he was kind of a blowhard who was often antagonistic towards our main character, he wasn't evil. He didn't deserve to die. He didn't even really deserve that kind of hell that Jimmy and Kim put him through.
Howie, you know.
And then he turns up at Jimmy's place in a classic case of wrong place, wrong time, and Lalo Salamanca casually shoots him dead. Brutal and tragic. It left the audience as traumatized as Jimmy and Kim. Medical drama Grey's Anatomy is kind of infamous for going for the emotional jugular, but even for a show that's got a reputation for killing off characters rather than giving them a happy ending, the death of Derek Shepard was a shock. Played by heartthrob Patrick Dempsey, Derek was the husband of Dr. Meredith Grey. After a rocky period for their marriage, Derek decides to return to Seattle.
I'm not gonna miss my flight.
But, oops! On the way, he gets into a car accident and following various complications, gets taken off life support. Satisfying? Maybe not. Shocking though, definitely. Dexter was pretty much a show about death, so viewers expected a certain quota of vicious murders per episode. But the death of Dexter's wife Rita managed to catch us by surprise anyway. The cruelty of the death was definitely part of the shock. Knowing he has to face the Trinity killer, Dexter sends Rita out of town so she can be safe. But even after the good serial killer kills the bad serial killer, the villain reveals a plan that's very reminiscent of the movie Seven.
I visited your home this morning after you'd left.
Dexter gets home and finds Rita dead in the bathtub, killed before the big confrontation, with their son crying nearby. A fridging, a trauma flashback for Dexter, and a shock for the audience. All in one. We knew that Stranger Things could be creepy and disturbing, but before the death of Bob Newby, it was arguably never this cruel. Played by the lovable Sean Astin, Bob was basically a big lug, an amiable and caring guy who just wanted to do the right thing. So naturally, he gets killed in front of his girlfriend, Joyce, and the camera spends a long time lingering on the sight of the Demodogs, tearing him to pieces. Forget justice for Barb. How about justice for Bob? We could spend a long time arguing about whether an animated comedy like The Simpsons really needs to have permanent character deaths.
People in this court are thinking of killing her right now.
Especially for characters who have been there since the beginning and who everybody is kinda used to. But maybe that's what made the death of Maude Flanders effective. The wife of Ned Flanders and mother of Rod and Todd was a constant presence on the show, so her death by t-shirt cannon was a real shock, as well as being kind of undignified. While The Simpsons is a comedy, or at least it was. Poor Matthew Crawley, the favorite son of the Crawley dynasty that owns Downton Abbey. Matthew survived World War I, paralysis, and the Spanish influenza, only to die unexpectedly on the happiest day of his life.
Stop this at once!
It's all looking so joyful. Matthew's son has been born. He's driving back home to tell his family the good news. And he crashes into a delivery truck, which falls and crushes him to death. What a cruel twist of fate. We knew from the beginning of House of Cards that Frank Underwood was a bad apple and a moral operator willing to do anything, but we didn't know he was willing to do, well, you know, like
Anything.
until Zoe Barnes. The reporter had been an ally of Underwood's, with the two even engaging in an affair, and while the relationship was uneasy, it seemed mutually beneficial. But then Zoe started investigating a murder that Underwood might have been responsible for, so naturally he pushed her in front of a moving train.
Hunt or be hunted.
Well, it's one way to get rid of a troublesome journalist, I guess, though I wouldn't advise it personally. Look, if you're gonna be part of a biker club that sometimes gets involved in crimes, you have to at least allow for the possibility that something bad might happen, right? And that being said, the death of Opie Winston was still pretty brutal. After punching a cop to ensure that he gets taken to prison with his friends, Opie gets pulled into Damon Pope's complex revenge scheme. The result? He's viciously beaten to death by by a prison gang in front of his helpless friends. Oof. Over 20 years later, and this one still hurts, Joyce Summers was one of the warmest and most realistic portrayals of motherhood on the small screen. Supportive of her daughter, but often confused by the crazy things that went on. And understandably so, with her daughter being a vampire slayer and all. But it wasn't just her loving presence that made her loss so shocking. It was the mundane nature of her death, complications from a brain tumor. In a world of monsters, vampires, and demons, it was horror of a completely different kind. Something you could imagine happening to someone you knew. Maybe even something that you have experienced yourself. And it made for one of the greatest, most painful episodes of TV ever. It's a testament to the writing on Succession that the death of Logan Roy in the show's 4th season came as a shock. After all, the Roy patriarch's declining health was a major part of the show's narrative. He even escaped to death in the pilot, but his eventual death from a pulmonary embolism while on a flight was so sudden, and his family's reactions were so raw.
Oh man. You never even liked me.
We couldn't help but be shocked too. I won't say R.I.P. because, well, Logan was kind of a jerk, but hey, great writing. So those are 10 of my favorite unexpected character deaths. But hey, while I still got you here, can we think of a theoretical character death that would have even been more shocking? One that absolutely would have destroyed the internet and boiled water coolers across the land? Yeah, I'm gonna go with young Sheldon for that one.
Sweet mother of all that is good and pure.
Can you imagine their reactions?